length of this race.
We're going to take a look at our call-ups here for our men as we see the German national champion for DCC coming up to the line. The DCC riders, Jonas Schirmeiser, they've been real animators for our races overall. But Hassani Hennis will be coming up next from Anguilla. Sonny Hennis having a few top 10 rides over the weekend. Connor White from Austin Aviators, their Bermudan national champion, apparently.
Yeah, we haven't seen those guys this much this race, the Austin Aviators. Hopefully this is a course where they come alive.
South African national champion coming to us from the World Tour, and most recently on Lotto Soudal, now joining us with the NCL with the Denver Disruptors. That is Jans van Riesberg. Clever Martinez from Miami Knights now coming up to the line. We've seen a little bit of action from Clever, haven't we, over the past few nights, but nothing really on the podium quite yet.
No, he's been taking the role of really being the last lead-out guy for Alfredo Rodriguez. He hasn't been off the front active, just really kind of playing that consummate full lead-out guy for Alfredo, and they haven't got it right this week. We've seen Gomez on the podium, but they really need that overall win to kind of come out of Tulsa Tough, I think, happy.
Dusan Kalaba coming up to the line right now. Dusan definitely has a lot of potential. He was on the podium in Blue Dome, just off the podium last night in the Arts District. He was a Slovakian national champion a few years ago in 2017, so he certainly has the legs. Dario Raps was second last night, another rider for DCC coming up to the line. Seems like he's really enjoying his racing experience here at St. Francis Tulsa Tough.
How can you not? It's Tulsa.
So Mr. Raps getting himself a little call-up after some outstanding performances. And your overall leader, Danny Summerhill, wearing that pink leader's jersey for the St. Francis Tulsa Tough. Great to see Danny here. I think last night you were also talking to us about how Danny has come through a lot of tough situations for the past few years. He sought some help with his mental health, and he's now finding himself on the top. That'll be a great story we'll get into later on in the race as well. Justin Williams with a great win, Blue Dome the other night. This course not necessarily suiting Justin. Nevertheless, always great to have that full team and that full squad racing with us. And it looks like they're going to call up Tyler Williams. I expect something good for Tyler. Winner here in 2021. So he certainly has the ability and capability of repeating that feat here in 2023. And the last call up, we're going to have Corey Williams now racing in blue tonight. Corey Williams doing a lot of work for the team last night. He's been a little off of his sharp edge game in the past few nights, but we'll see how he's able to contribute to the Legion of Los Angeles overall approach here tonight.
Yeah, I expect the Williams brothers today to just be full gas teammates for as long as they can do it. We're going to see those probably guys pretty active, covering moves, setting pace to take the workload off the other four riders on that team to get them as far through the race as they possibly can. Well,
what's the overall race dynamic going to be here on the first few laps? Is this going to be like a 5-lap blitz, or is it going to be riders sort of sussing things out?
I think there's some teams that need to do the five-lap blitz. They need to go all in, shake up the race. It's their only chance. They've missed 2 days of racing. Opportunities to make something happen for themselves. Maybe not field sprint teams. Kind of waiting around for the race to come to you may not be your best bet. It might be trying to make the first 5 laps of this race very difficult. Get reduced numbers into your favor sooner than later.
We'll see what happens here. DCC was very aggressive last night. We'll see if they continue that effort here at Crybaby Hill. I would say that the crowd enthusiasm will also influence the motivation of some of the riders. I mean, what's it like to be on Crybaby Hill at these races? As we now come off the start line, we are now underway here for the St. Francis Tulsa Tough. Third day of racing here, McElroy Park Criterium, better known as Crybaby Hill. And we are underway here for a great afternoon of racing.
Yeah, what's unique about a party race of like Crybaby Hill is, it's 4:30. Crybaby Hill is not going to be fading. it's going to be reaching its peak, whereas some of these twilight races, the crowd can peak too early, and you get halfway through the men's race, and the energy is there, but it's not super sharp. Whereas Crybaby Hill, these guys are going to be racing through the peak of that energy here.
We'll see what the dynamic becomes here. We're fence to fence at the moment. But we are just the first lap in. Plenty of racing left here to do for our Crybaby Hill. Look at that crowd, though. 2-3 deep along the fence. This used to be Alpe d'Huez, but we are now have so many people, and they're very boisterous that we got a little bit of fence there on the Crybaby Hill. Now as they come down and around past some of the enthusiastic parties, riders sussing it out, wraps near the front. And a number of other riders. Looks like Alfredo Rodriguez did not get a call up. Alfredo Rodriguez had an interesting night last night where he ended up doing a lot of work in the middle of that race that potentially sacrificed his potential for an overall.
Yeah, I mean, he got stuck in between a rock and a hard place and had to do a massive effort at the wrong time. And he paid dearly for it. He basically spent the rest of the race, before the last 5 laps, trying to recover and minimize the damage that he took on.
Corey Williams leading through the final turn here for the first lap, as you see the riders sort of sussing things out. And DCC checking the shoulders, just seeing who's there. The Blue Helmets of American Cycling Group, that's a team of Danny Summerhill, patrolling near the front. They're going to try to protect the overall lead of their man, Danny Summerhill. Danny had a great story. You got into it a little bit last night about what he went through the past few years. Would you care to rehash that a little bit for anybody that missed it at the Arts Criterium last night?
Yeah, without all the nitty and gritty, I mean, he's had a really long career, basically racing since he's probably 14 years old. At that age, he's a very prominent cyclocross guy. Went to Europe, podium, and that was kind of the beginning of it for him, of just feeling immense pressure, and the weight of the world on his shoulders. And he just didn't have the toolbox to deal with it, and he, for a long time, he just kind of up and down, and then kind of made the mindset transition to become a domestique. Hey, I'm just going to work, ride my bike as hard as possible for other people, and not have that pressure on his shoulders. And that was his decision to be the best bike rider that he could be. And went to the track, tried to make the Tokyo Olympics, similar to myself. Didn't pan out for us, and at that point, I mean, we were basically on a very similar journey at that point in time of making a massive goal, not making it, and then dealing with the repercussions mentally afterwards. And we both, independently of each other, we didn't really talk that much during that time period, but really spent time looking after our mental health. And I think that's night and day difference of the human and bike racer we see that is Danny Summerhill now. And any lesson that can be passed on for myself and Danny at this point is it's never too early to talk about your mental health. Go seek help, be vulnerable, talk about that. And it's okay. And you're going to come out the end much better than you're currently in. There's daylight at the end of that tunnel. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
I think that's a really important story, and I hope that we can get into that a little bit more on our podcast, The Call Up, at some point, as I think it's a beautiful thing that everybody should talk about. Look at this man right here, Austin Carroll.
Yeah, this is a guy from my early era, Madison track rider, part of the old rock racing crew. Retired, had some kids. Now he's come back to race and having a splash. And he's with Frank Travieso. Like Austin, good guy, was a good bike racer, but I think he's just trying to have his fun, go up Crybaby Hill a couple times at the front of the race, have that experience.
Yeah.
But this is a really big ask on a hard course for a guy that, really hasn't been racing at this level that much.
Yeah, and Travieso just covering the move, and you can see Austin going to start the old sag climb operation there at the front. Nice to see Austin joining us here for the St. Francis Tulsa Tough one more time. Travieso, rider from Athens, Georgia, by way of Cuba. And Frank, just a legend in the sport. So great to have him on the NCL Miami Nights program, racing with us here another year. And Frank now setting up the tempo at the front of the race. Again, Miami Nights looking for a little bit of redemption. They got Brian Gomez on the podium last night for 3rd place. They'd love to find the top step here at the St. Francis Tulsa Tough. Day number 3 here is beautiful McElroy River Park Criterium, better known as Crybaby Hill.
Yeah, I expect a lot of action. This is going to be fireworks. The depth of the field, You know, but I'm really kind of looking at ButcherBox to, you know, they had in my opinion, had a terrible race. You know, they may have, on paper, you know, we had a bunch of guys in the top 20, but you can't really do that when you have a guy capable of winning bike races. You got to figure it out, kind of recollect yourselves, refocus it, and you have a guy that can win these bike races. You got to get the team reorganized and then start working for one rider. So that's one storyline we have to look at. Watch these guys in the red jerseys, you know, white arrow helmets here to find themselves starting to work together, put something together to get a win or a really big result. I mean, at this point, from night one, that was a result. Now they're looking for a win. Anything less, you know, is kind of disappointment for them. So they needed to get it together. I would expect to see a lot for them. And what we're seeing now with the field kind of fence to fence is the effects of the headwind going into the climb. That is we're gonna see this probably as a common thread a lot of the time. At some point on this home stretch, at some point, you know, it's gonna balloon up before it stretches back out again.
Brian Gomez on the front right now as he leads the way into the base of Crybaby Hill. Some other riders on the heels there for Primal Audi and whatnot, but there you go, Sergio Hanea. No?
That looks like Juan Arango to me.
Ah, that's Juan Arango. You are right. So Juan Arango coming up and around. Another Olympian, though, from Colombia. So Juan Arango from Colombia. He has represented that country at the Olympics on the track. And he is now setting some speed. Now, what's the move here? He's got a good amount of daylight between himself and the rest of the field.
Yeah, and he's just a big aerobic engine on a course that, you know, is punchy. He's a points race Madison guy coming from the track. And so this is, you know, a good course. You know, he's a smaller guy, so the hill's not going to have, quote, as big of an effect on him. So he's just going to go out there, hopefully kind of draw some guys out. Hope, you know, some of these smaller teams that likely aren't going to finish the race are making big efforts to try to get with him and not make some of the other bigger teams chase.
So Arango off the front at the moment. He has certainly the ability to give himself a bit of an advantage and not ride outside of his ability. Let's see who's going to jump across.
Tyler Williams, Sam Bormito, Primal Audi Denver rider, the German national champion, Brian Gomez, Justin Williams, another DCC rider, Summerhill, I see there in the pink jersey, Clever Martinez, a Nashville cycling rider, and, you know, a couple of these smaller amateur teams in the middle. So,
but look at the field dynamic, how it shifted, right?
Ski-retched out.
Yeah, we were fence to fence last time through, and now we are almost fully single file. A little bit of a separation that's hard to tell from the camera foreshortening. Looks like Summerhill actually did make that split initially, but he got there on the draft of the German national champion, so good, smart riding. And now Alec Cohen going up on the left-hand side right now for Legion of Los Angeles. We'll see what Alex's approach is going to be here, and if he's going to continue to push the pedals hard.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a different Legion tactic today. You know, with the last 2 days of how Justin and Corey, you know, riding, you know, they're not going to count on those guys to be the finishers. You know, Justin's always struggled here as a larger, fast guy. We've seen Corey do a good job here. He's won the overall based on his, you know, result here. So he can ride this course and he has good legs. Last night he didn't show us that. He was setting tempo early in this race, shows us that, you know, he's in it as a team player. So I think we're going to see Alec, Tyler Williams, Sam be super active. And Ty's going to be that floating sprinter. You know, we've seen Ty be riding really well, not take on as much workload the last 2 days. So he's going to be, if it's coming down to a larger group, expect Ty to be there, and that's the guy they're working for. And that's just contingency. That's plan B. I think plan A is for Alex, Sam, and Tyler to really just start throwing bombs, making the race super hard to get a small, reduced group, and kind of go for that glory solo one here at Crybaby.
Alec on the front for a lot of Blue Dome, doing a lot of work for that program today. Strategy a little different. He's really pushing the pedals. Tyler behind him for Blazers, as well as those riders are going to be looking for an opportunity. Tanner Ward, excuse me, for Blazers right behind. We have a little bit of a separation here. I see Clever at the back of it, a number of DCC riders. And we do have Denver Disruptors. Primal Audi making the split there as well with that green jersey. Tyler Williams is in there. It looks like Noah Granigan may have gotten himself into the mix, but we'll get some confirmation. Oh, that might be Oscar Nisu.
Yeah, so we got 2 Denver, 2 Legion, a Blazer, ButcherBox, you know, it's a good mix, but this is where the gap needs to continue to expand. It's still bridgeable on the hill for one guy to just make a really explosive pop across to it. And we can kind of see that breakaway's not working fully together. They're kind of bunched up, but I expect Denver to kind of really continue to put the pace on.
There's your pop across right now. So we got one more rider trickling across, and then the single file riders behind. Hard to tell a little bit what's going on behind this group of 5 coming across, but off the front of the race, you now have 2 riders and 2 more bridging to it. Was like a Rango, potentially.
I believe that's Heino. But as we just kind of saw in that overall shot, how there was a group off the front, a bridger, and we saw the front of that breakaway, 2 guys go off the front, that break get reabsorbed, and a reshuffle of that move. And if you're in the field and you're not riding heads up, you could definitely think that the makeup of a breakaway is one thing, and that can get flipped on its head instantly in that little valley at the top of the climb. So if you're really trying to understand and break down team tactics, who's the move, whether you like it or don't like it based on your team, it's ever-changing in these stages of the races as guys can go forward and come back at a moment's notice.
Evan McQuirk there for Butcher Box. Putting himself into that initial separation, but we are all back together at this point in time. It seemed like a lot of effort to get a gap and then to have it reabsorbed within another half a lap. But I guess that's
the game we're going to play all day. You know, and these are the riders: Alec, Sergio Henao, Arango. These are the riders that are capable of doing these big 40, 60-second efforts to make a big impact and recover. You know, these are the guys that are, capable. These are the riding style. They're going to be able to do this for an hour, 75 minutes. So that's the stuff we're going to see. Those are the guys we're going to see come forward or stay forward at the duration of this race and just watch, the field just kind of, dwindle down 5, 10 riders at a time, every couple of laps.
Oliver Boyd for Primal Audi, the rider leading up the climb right now. Boyd being followed there by Oscar Nisu of Denver Disruptors.
And these are bold efforts, in my opinion, from a Primal small team. Like, anybody could surprise this, right? Like, I don't know everybody. I don't know everybody's story, everybody's capability. But, these are bold moves from a team like that if we didn't see them playing the first night or two, and they're putting efforts like this early into a race this difficult, they're asking a bit much. But at the end of the day, they didn't do much first 2 nights, and they have used the opportunity of Crybaby Hill for having to say Primal Audi Denver, I believe is what they want us to call them. They're doing their job getting their name shout out. So, it's as a team, as a bike team, there's multiple facets of the process. You're winning races to get your name called, or you're being active, being at the front of bike races to get your name called.
Well, there you are, Primal Audi Denver. I think we just sold them a car, so you're welcome.
Hey, Audi, holler. I'm in Denver, or Boulder,
There we go. Certainly feeling the effects. What's it like riding? Oh my goodness, the German national champion is off the bag. Jans van Riesberg. What's going on there?
We talked about this, I think, off camera, the DCC, that I wasn't expecting much from this. These are, again, anybody can surprise me, but, they're larger guys. That's a larger team. These are 80-plus kilo guys. And this is a group, this is a course that punishes riders that size. He could have had a mechanical. We could have missed a drop chain for this gap to open like this in the situation he's in. But again, I think that team, we're going to see those guys slowly fade. And I think it's going to be hard for Dario Raps to maintain a position in the overall. I want to be surprised. I'm willing to be surprised. It's just, kind of what I've seen and what I think is going to play out towards the end of this race, seeing the finish of this thing 15 times.
Oliver Boyd still off the front for Primal Audi Denver. And it looks like Texas Roadhouse trying to send somebody across. Is that Fergus? Just sort of, maybe we can see him through the trees there. But Primal Audi Denver getting themselves a little bit of airtime. This is your man from Boulder, Colorado, Oliver Boyd. Crash at the base of the climb. We're going to have riders riding back to the pit.
That was a lot.
And we got Oliver Boyd continuing to be off the front, checking the shoulder. He's surprising himself, I think, right now.
Yeah, for sure. And this is, this is a team, right? He's carrying 2 bottles, and it's a bottle and a half. This is one of those things where when you're a larger team with resources, you get away with carrying 1 bottle or a half bottle. And, one of those bottles weighs 2 pounds. You know, and if you're carrying 2 pounds extra to all of your friends, you know, that adds up on a course like this. So, yeah, that's what I see.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that you know, that Oliver Boyd is selling some Audis right now for Denver Audi, getting himself known. All right, Fergus is coming across to it. Fergus Arthur from Texas Roadhouse Cycling, presented by VQ.
Yeah, and it's like Oliver Boyd needs to maybe kind of, doesn't need to fully sit up, but he just needs to come off the pedals, 30-40 watts, and let Fergus get there sooner than later so he can have a buddy to share the workload. But he may or might not know who Fergus Arthur is. He's a really good rider. He won a Speed Week race solo, you know, with a lot of teams chasing. So Fergus may or may not know that the other larger teams paid attention. They know who he is, and if he's trying to do the same thing, it's going to be a much bigger ask than the first time he did it.
He also spent like a lap and a half trying to make the bridge, and so he basically was doing his own effort out there by himself, which burns up the legs. This early in the contest without any other big team collaboration, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's fine that he has that fitness. I'm just not sure it was applied quite, you know, in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you make a big effort and you hope that it's a half-lap effort and it turns into a lap and a half. And there's a point in which you're fully committed and you just have to ride it out, whether you detonate or you get there. In a perfect world, you get there ASAP, start getting help, and you know, carrying on with it. Sometimes you kind of get stuck out in the wind and you just got to ride it out.
Well, nevertheless, we have these two guys linked up, and now very quickly you see Legion of Los Angeles with Tyler Williams linking up with them and potentially bringing the whole field back up. So
and that's Iman Lucas with Tyler Williams, a big fella on a hard course. It's going to be interesting to see. You know, we didn't see Iman finish last night. We didn't really see much of Austin Aviators at all. Early, we did see them in the back of the field kind of collecting themselves, but no big move, you know, from them. So Iman could have had an off night, and let's see if he's got different legs today.
Brian Gomez now inserting himself into the mix. He's going to take that inside line, and a rider who has done very well here at the St. Francis Tulsa Tough in the past. You see these riders going to be reinserted into the race at the back. It's like Dante Young and the German national champion Ryan Hartjoss van Rensburg is going to be inserted.
Yeah. And you have Brian Gomez, Iman Lucas, you know, essentially a couple of these, the larger riders in this field are going to want a breakaway. They want to find themselves into a move with 5, 6, 7, 8 guys to ride with and really smooth out the race. You know, larger guy just wants to get one tempo, one pace, and ride that as long as possible. They don't want to deal with the punchy riding up every hill. You know, it's just a lot of mass to move, you know, from slow to fast a bunch.
I'm seeing Texas Roadhouse do a lot of work in this race already, but there you go. You got that counter attack by Haneo. Either Arango or Haneo. It's hard for me to see with this camera angle, but very aggressive up and out of the saddle and quickly creating the gap. We'll try to get that identification here quickly, but the response from the field seems to be pretty tepid. I'm not sure they even saw that acceleration occur.
Yeah, there's probably 5 guys in the field that saw that move, but we're 20 minutes in. It's on a course like this is kind of a natural lull point. Everybody's been high pace, high heart rate, and high power, and you know, it's just 20 minutes, as we all know, that's like your power test. What can you do for 20 minutes? So it's kind of this natural point of everybody's kind of maxed out. Everybody kind of hits that 20-minute mark and goes, okay, we need a little bit of reprieve. And this is just heads-up IQ riding by that Denver rider to know, like, hey, I'm not going to participate and, you know, bridge a gap that's already high-paced. I'm going to wait for the race to come to me and do a massive counterattack. And this is what we see. We're getting a really large gap from an effort like that.
Pretty sure it's Juan Arango.
Yep, that's Juan.
Yep, so Juan Arango from Colombia one more time. This is the second time that he has done an effort off the front of this race, so he clearly wants to create a breakaway opportunity, and of course the riders coming into the pit will not join him. They will go into the field.
So one thing, Juan's got his elbows in, head down, arrow. It's what you need to do when you're by yourself, you know, especially in the headwind. And it looks like we have Sam Boardman trying to bridge across, very similar position. Low profile, flat forearms, you know, in a long, flat straight like this, you got to use aerodynamics to your advantage. And it's just rider discipline to maintain that form the whole time you're out there and use that to your advantage, so you don't take on, you know, you don't have to do more watts, more power than you need to.
You are a big proponent of it.
He's asking for it. He's asking for it.
He wants the crowd involved.
He's seen Hollywood at this race.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Big ring in it also, by the way. He is in the big ring right now, getting himself. He has a big cassette on the back, so he's maintained front ring, but he wants the crowd to help him out using Crybaby Hill to his advantage.
And he's a Colombian rider. He comes from you know, an area of the world that loves bike racing. He's used to big crowds. I've been to that track in Cali, Colombia, and they show up, they show out for it. I mean, it's an amazing track. It's very unique, cool, open air. But that, you know, he's used to crowds. He loves that energy, and he's asking for Tulsa to give it to him.
Wanarango is a very talented rider, but he also very enthusiastic for that crowd support. So great to see. Now we'll see if Sam Boardman can get himself there. Orango, nice, flat forearms. Daniel has always been a proponent of the aerodynamic gains when it comes to these longer, harder efforts, and Boardman following behind. Very similar style, lower back, trying to get that sternum parallel to the top tube and making the forearms flat just to reduce that front aerodynamic drag. Orango now coming up and over and coasting a little bit, taking a few meters to himself, and Boardman trying to get there, staying off the brake. Well, he's on that brake there a little bit.
And you can see that technique. He's down the hill. You can see there was space between his butt and the saddle. And what that is, you know, we can't see it fully from the front, but what he's doing is lifting his butt off the saddle and moving it back, getting his center of weight, you know, getting behind the wheel and off the front. That way, when he starts to turn, the front wheel isn't overloaded to wash out. And it's just good technique to get his speed to the right speed as soon as possible, so we can initiate that turn and carry momentum.
Okay. I think there's also a layer too that you could explain to us about the effort that it takes to bridge across like this, because I think some newer riders to the sport may just go full gas initially just to try to get there, but that is not really the best way of making a longer bridge effort to a stronger rider.
It's a game time decision. It depends how long or how big the gap is and where it is on a particular course like this. If it's on the hill, you got to use that to your advantage to get, and it's very explosive, get there as soon as possible. You know, as we saw when Sam came across, it was kind of probably in the valley or just kind of after corner 2 and onto the home stretches. That can no longer be as explosive. It's got to be a high power effort, but then tempoed out and bring him back at the pace that he did this particular time. So, yeah, it's not every bridge is identical and requires the exact same effort. It's definitely in the moment you kind of have to decide which one that is. Very explosive, or, you know, you have to kind of draw it out and be tempo. Because what Sam wants to do is, by the time he makes it to Orango, he wants to participate. He doesn't want to get there and ask Orango for rest, because Orango's also been working. Orango also is carrying fatigue. And so he's got to get there, you know, with something in his legs to begin to participate. And, you know, now they're teammates. One's in black, one's in blue. For at this point in time, they're teammates. Their same goal is to get to the finish line without the field.
That's right. No, thank you for that explanation. I think that's a layer of the sport that so many never really quite fully appreciate. That's just that nuance of the opportunities that are presented to you can be taken advantage of if you know how to think about it and then execute it as well. So we got Juan Orango from Colombia in the darker shoulders, and Sam Boardman, originally from Washington, D.C., now according to our sheets living in Montana area, but he is on the Legion of Los Angeles program. And we're going to see what the field dynamic will be as they come on to Crybaby. Our field now will be coming up and through here very shortly. And there they are now.
That's a large gap.
That's a big gap. We're trying to get that time gap, but it is pretty significant. Big gaps, though, here at the back of the field. But look at this field dynamic, Daniel. We are fence to fence right now. Some of our
Cliff Bar drifters.
Yeah, the Cliff Bar drifters may be trying. Is that Ryan Y?
It does look like him.
Yeah. He is he's actually doing his residency right now and trying to train. 30-second gap. Wow, a 30-second gap that we counted out right now between the breakaway and the field. 30 seconds for your breakaway.
Yeah, we can see that both Sam Boardman and Juan Orango aren't the GC. You know, they're not there to be a part of that race. So it's races within races, right? American Cycling's not worried about these guys coming back. You know, the American Cycling's priority with Summerhill is now the overall, right? That's their tactic. We're going to speed them. That's where they're going to be spending their energy, is to protect that jersey, right? Legion is wanting to win this race. They put Sam in the position to do that. Same with Denver Disruptors. You know, it's a good course for Noah, but he took damage day one. It's not the greatest course for Van Rensburg. So we can see that this is the tactic they're employing. Get a small group, maybe a one-on-one situation here to try to get their stage win.
So our field being checking them out, looking at the dynamic at the front, it looks like we're trying to organize a little bit of a chase, and that is putting a little bit of damage into the back, where you see that single file pace line, a lot of the amateur teams back there. It looks like they're not necessarily pushing hard on the pedals, though. Meanwhile, up at the front, we've got Miss McElroy, maybe.
Yeah, and this is like, they've missed 2 days, you know, of being a part of the bike race. They found themselves to come to the front, but tactically it's so strange.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what dog did they have in the fight to put in this effort to chase these two guys? They're respectfully not racing these two guys. They're spending energy to chase them down for what? You know, at the end of the day, they should be, you know, protecting themselves to get a top 20, a top 15, a surprise top 10, rather than just go to the front and set a hard tempo to monitor this gap. It's not their job, not their business to be doing this.
So we have Boardman and Arango off the front, and Cliff Bar seemingly taking up the chase here on behalf of all the other teams. I would put the effort onto Miami. This for anybody else.
Yeah, Butcher Box, he needs to get it together and be a part of this. I mean, at the end of the day, they're the biggest losers in this three-man move, or two-man move, right?
Butcher Box is the biggest losers?
Yeah, Butcher Box needs to be in there. You know, clearly there's other teams that missed it, but you know, I think for what they haven't achieved, Butcher Box, especially yesterday when they were, you know, a favorite to win that race, you know, they need to be putting a guy in that move, take pressure off the rest of the team, and let Dusan, you know, save his legs, and just the mental freshness, saying, oh, I got a guy up the move, I can relax.
Yeah.
Now they don't have any guy up there. Now they're on high alert. They can't miss the next move.
Yeah.
You know, if they do, they just look silly.
Just look at this nuance right here, though. Oh, Sam is able to clear 2 bike lengths on Arango through this final turn, 2 laps in a row. Right?
Yeah, that's Sam riding this course 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? That's Sam putting in, you know, a couple hundred laps on this course, and Arango never seeing it before.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It's not that Juan can't do it. It's that Sam just knows his braking points, knows where to, you know, let off the brakes, where to pedal. But now this is really interesting. 2 DCC riders, Miami Knights, 2 Legion. Is that, I'm not sure who the red jersey is, but we have Clever Martinez coming across as well to that.
I think that's an above and beyond rider, maybe. We'll try to get some items on that for the red jersey, above and beyond cancer.
Good for them.
Yeah.
But see, so we just see this DCC rider kind of do a sellout attack. I'm going to do this massive pull to do the launch for his teammate.
Is that Alfredo Rodriguez in there? Maybe second wheel?
Could be.
Clever
just good to see, and Clever just bridged it back. Now we see Butcher Box, you know, late to the party, but they are trying to attend it.
It's like your German national champion, Van Rensburg, recovering. He must have had some sort of mechanical at some point that we didn't quite catch off camera, because now he is in the mix at the front when it's starting to matter most. The damage to the field, though, with these accelerations looks to be pretty significant at the back.
Oh, yeah. And if you see 2 guys go off the front, they get 30 seconds pretty quick. It's very easy to just be complacent and be like, oh, the field's going to happy, just let those 2 guys right away. So if you're one of those riders that, you know, it takes too much complacency, kind of floats a little too far back, and a team like DCC throws a really big 2-up attack, strings it out, and you find yourself 40, 50 wheels back with gaps open, you can't get complacent on a course like this. You have to stay switched on for the full duration of this race if you really want to have a result.
So we're seeing Boardman and Arango coming up and around and getting a clear amount of daylight. We have a rider on a scooter on the course. Hopefully we get them clear. There we go. All right. So a lot of daylight still between, but the gap is coming down now. We're now on about 20 seconds, maybe less.
And that's fine. That's going to happen, right? We're going to see big efforts like this from DCC or other programs do really massive effort and close down 10, 12, maybe 15 seconds. But it's at such high pace, such high intensity that it's like, who's going to follow that up? You know, there has to be people to follow up to then close the second 15 seconds or, 10 seconds to make it a 5-second gap. But now the gap's probably going to blow out 30 seconds, or in instances like this, sometimes it goes out to 45 seconds because the field takes on so much fatigue, goes so hard that they have to overcompensate by going slower than they previously were, and the gap can just go way back out. So if you're Sam, you're a Rango, you have to put the field out of your mind, and you're racing your own race like they don't exist. And the field only comes back into your life once you're absorbed.
Okay.
You don't care if it comes back to 7 seconds, and you don't come, you're just really not worried about what that gap is beginning to fluctuate. It's out of, it's no longer your thing. You're setting your tempo. You're finding what's the pace, what's the hardest pace I can ride to get to the finish line, or keep it, keep us away until you can start playing games.
Yep.
And even then, it's very delicate on this course. 30 seconds between two guys can evaporate really fast if you start playing games and teams are starting to do lead-outs. But now I think that's Alfredo Rodriguez putting pressure on from Miami Knights to bridge across to this.
That's what I saw as well. I think that this gap is going to come down, and we're probably going to see a catch being made here pretty soon in the next 200 meters or so.
It's Brian Gomez, sorry.
Mr. Gomez coming down and around. Now the two riders at the front, you see Juan going to the pocket, going to take on a gel and get himself some calories back into the system. He's just been spending a lot of effort at the front. He's going to take on those calories, taking a little bit of hydration so that he can digest it properly. It looks like this acceleration, though, is drawing out about 7 different riders at the moment. So we'll see with single file racing, though, right now. Everybody is full gas. I'm not expecting the 2 riders to necessarily succeed super fast.
And if you look at this field, it is single file. It's a long home stretch, but it feels like it's almost the whole length when it's single file, that long. The field's probably 20 seconds long, tip to tail. I mean, look at you guys are going into this corner, and people are still funneling into the bottom. Still. Those guys, something has to happen in your favor if you don't have great legs, or you just have to be a spectacular rider to get yourself from that position back into the point in the race. But it's still exploding. We're seeing counterattacks now, and these gaps open back up.
Well, the catch is made. You can actually see the 2 riders who were
coming
off
out of the tree right there.
Out of the tree at the moment, and so we're going to see a real shift. And it looks like Ty Magner is going to be the first rider to counter that next move. And following him out is going to be, I believe, Noah. That is Noah Granigan, number 59. Noah,
I like this duo.
Yeah, Noah and Ty have some opportunity here if they can get themselves enough of a gap. But full gas racing here for the past 3 laps to try to catch Boardman and Arango. They have been absorbed. They have been caught. We now see Ty Magner for Legion of Los Angeles, who really could win this race in the end if things play out well. But here he is on a breakaway about 33 minutes into racing. Noah Granigan from Denver Disruptors is the rider who has joined up with him.
Yeah, I love these 2 guys. I would say Ty and I are very, very similar type riders. We came from different programs, different overall tactic pictures, but physiologically, the same ability to go off the front of a race like this and win it out of a small group. Be a player in that factor, or Ty's an incredible field sprinter. Noah does have top end speed after a hard race, so it'd be really fun if these 2 guys were able to establish a gap to go into the finale together. Watch this cat and mouse gameplay. It'd be super exciting between these particular riders. Now we have a Blazer rider, Johnny Brown, trying to get a part of the action. Great
to see our Blazers riders trying to get themselves. Johnny Brown, Blazers, trying to bridge himself across behind. You're going to see Dario Raps, number 53, at the front of the field, trying to do the work to get himself up to that separation. DCC struggling a little bit this afternoon, as far as, yesterday we saw them be very aggressive, 2-up attacks, taking the race to the front. So far, we have seen them, first off, have a mechanical and chasing, and then otherwise somewhat quiet in this afternoon's proceedings.
Yeah, again, I don't think this is the type of course that fully suits them. And you can kind of fall into one mindset of how races and how teams are going to act based on the first 2 nights, and then show up to this course and see riders and teams race completely differently. It's really interesting to see Dario Raps racing this hard.
Yeah.
You know, at this point in time when he's second on GC, the guys up the road, you know, aren't really fighting for his position there in the GC. And, you know, I don't know. Your guys have, you know, a different mentality, different things. And, you know, he may be doing the work because they got a guy that they feel can win the stage. And, you know, saying, hey, we're just going to get second.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be super hard to get rid of Danny. Let's really just try to get our stage win here. And that could be what's happening. We'll have to wait and find out. But
well, let's see what happens. Spencer, maybe?
Tanner Ward.
Oh, Tanner Ward coming out and putting himself into the win.
Yeah, we can see Spencer's that second Pinkett helmet in the field.
Okay.
And that's a guy that, you know, as we get, you know, in that 15-8 to go, you know, is a guy that could launch, you know, and potentially drop one or two other guys. And that would be the type of race that Spencer would want. That late, big power, and just draw out 3, 4, 5 guys, work with them, and use his kick to the finish.
Just across the bottom of the screen there, just before we pan to the field, there was a group of 5 that went across, and the back of it was Corey Williams. So that would be interesting to see if Corey can hang on there. You already got Butcher, or no, that is not Butcher Bucks, I don't think.
ACC, above category?
Yeah. We'll get some eyes on that. Looks like we're single file, so it looks like the small separation will be brought back here momentarily, and field has been whittled down. Yeah,
it's starting to come apart. I'd be curious to see if Justin is still there. I know looking at the back of the field a couple laps ago, he was towards the back.
He's about 5 from the back.
Okay, and I mean, as we saw the first night, high IQ riding by him, floating, not participating in the accelerations and just existing. And this is, you know, for a guy like Justin, that if he just does that, stays present towards the back of the field, and he can just exist, not, you know, do too much work, and the race just goes on and nothing major has happened. You know, you get a guy like that, you get a guy like me 5 laps from the finish line, and it's all together, you start finding a different mode. You start coming within that if he's just being patient, waiting for that to happen, Justin could potentially come out of nowhere. What we're going to have to look for is, you know, start reading his body language the next couple laps if we can see it.
Yeah, there he is with his Red Bull helmet, just trying to stay off the brakes as he coasts his way, trying to get as many meters as possible without pedaling. Nice and composed. What's the hips look like right now?
Yeah, he's starting to rock a bit. You know, the danger he plays on a course like this is that if gaps start to open in front of him, you know, he can't be the one responsible to close that. He's kind of at the will of the guys around him to, you know, keep attached to the overall group to get him, you know, further along in the race. So he's, you know, he's kind of getting danger close, but we also see Ty Magner's not that far in front of him, you know, as a teammate after that large attack.
Looks like Rodriguez may be right in front of him as well. We'll get some eyes on that and see who else is back there hanging out with Justin. But let's take a look at, I think the engine room just said he's overheated. We're shutting down cylinders.
So another rider that we have not seen, you know, kind of all race, he poked into the top 10 yesterday, I believe, was Connor Sally from the Austin Aviators. I mean, they've had a dead race, very underwhelming performance for, you know, on paper, the depth of that program. We would expect, especially Iman Lucas, the first 2 days to be, you know, either more present for himself as a result getter or being that big motor to place a guy like Connor Sally, you know, into the top 5, you know, for a chance to sprint.
Fergus Arthur trying to take a feed there and unsuccessfully doing so. So what happens in the psychology of a rider when you're desperate for a feed and you miss it?
Can I tell you a story?
Oh, yeah, I love stories.
So the same course, you know, a very trying, absolute trying day. I believe it was 15 maybe. I got here and I was absolutely shattered. I was just falling apart, you know, oil coming out of everywhere. I was just blown. And we didn't have our stuff together. We had nobody in the feed zone. And I was begging for water, begging for anything from the sides. And I'm wearing my champ jersey. Everybody knows me. Everybody's like, I don't want to help. I don't want to help. And guess who came to my rescue?
Justin?
Justin's dad. Justin and Corey's dad, who I've known forever since I was a junior from SoCal, you know, always going down racing those guys. Their dad came out, you know, and made sure I got water. Because there's a lot of independent guys asking for water, asking for help. And Justin's dad, was out there looking for me and taking away bottle from other guys and just get in front of my face to help me out.
That's awesome.
So there's a lot of rivalries, tension between riders, very competitive, but those families, still have the respect for they want their kid. His dad wants Justin and Corey to beat the best guys at their best, and that's what they did, so.
Well, Justin's going to get his opportunity to soak in the crowd here at Crybaby Hill. We did have a chance to go onto the hill before the race day began, and even 3 or 4 hours ago when we arrived, it was already quite the party. So hopefully Justin gets to soak it in here, as people offering beer hand-ups for him as he goes up the climb.
Justin's very careful. He's got to wait for a fat tire.
Of course. Brand sponsor appropriate for Justin Williams. All right, but notably Corey Williams in that gold helmet up at the front has been active in the past few laps. He has been getting himself into splits on the correct side of splits even. You see Corey coming up over the top there with that gold helmet. This is Justin's brother, Corey Williams, with the GoPro. Now, Corey's had a rough few nights, honestly. He's been trying to put in some work. He's been blown out early, both in Blue Dome and in the Arts District, but the fact that he is racing okay right now, potentially showing he's found some legs here on the 3rd day of racing at St. Francis Tulsa Tough. He's now talking to Alec, and we'll see if these guys are able to talk. They are talking to each other.
Alec's waiting for him there. Just Alec was looking back, making sure that Corey was on his wheel before he sped up and kind of got back into that group. And so Corey's had, I think 1 or 2 days where he's kind of had his best legs on the day to have a performance in it, but it didn't come together that day. So Corey's been close here. He's looking for that opportunity, but I think he's got to be really crafty, and he's got to have a couple teammates really willing to go for him, because a lot of guys are going to look around and say, hey, I'm not going to bring, I've got no interest in bringing Corey to the line.
Yeah. So Corey's there. On his right is Noah Granigan, who's now made the contact, and he's brought the whole field there. But, all right. Well, we seem to be jinxing people here, left and right.
Who wants to send a Venmo and a text of who you want for us to call out? We apologize. We apologize.
That was not our intention. Sorry, Corey and Justin, on the last few laps. Okay, well, Legion is now dwindled down a few riders. Alec Cohen on the front there. Alec did a ton of work at Blue Dome. Got knocked down by some riders in the crash late in that. But he is coming back. We have actually just heard over our TV transmission that Brian Gomez apparently is out of the race as well. That's a surprise.
That is a big surprise.
Wow.
I didn't anticipate him to be one of the riders to just, come out respectfully this early.
Yeah.
I would expect him to be a rider potentially doing a lot of work and then come out with 3 to go potentially. But with 18 laps to go, it's quite surprising to see and hear him no longer a part of the race. So who I'd like to find is Summerhill. We've seen him once.
Yeah.
He's kind of been MIA, but we can see Ben Wolf back there. He's in a white helmet, just behind Hassini there with the GoPro. But American Cycling has been very quiet. I mean, I see a couple. There's one right there with the blue helmet on the right side of the screen.
I just don't see a blue helmet with pink jersey at the moment. We'll see what's happening. Noah Granigan on the front for the moment while we take a look through the field. But Noah Granigan on the front for Denver Disruptors. Alec Cohen second wheel. Clever Martinez in third. And right behind
there he is.
Jamie
There's Summerhill.
Castaneda.
Summerhill exists. He's alive.
I see him.
He's just kind of 15 wheels back there.
Okay. Is he wearing a blue helmet?
No, he's in a white helmet. He's right there. No sunglasses, pink jersey.
Yep.
Rider numero uno.
Okay, yeah, I was looking for the blue helmet. So.
Yeah. Ooh, see, we saw there, overlapping a wheel.
Yeah.
Kind of catching himself.
With
but,
Dario
with his,
Raps, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so he's following the guy he needs to be following. But that bike handling skills comes from, Danny's cyclocross background.
Yep.
And been playing on the track on the winter last couple of years.
So just to recap, Danny Summerhill leading the Omnium here for the St. Francis Tulsa Tough, and just behind him in the Omnium is Dario Raps, number 53. And so Summerhill is really just treating it like a points race, I would guess, right? It's just following the rider who he is watching on GC.
Yeah, but we could start to see Danny grimace, you know, right there. It was very brief, but, you know, that wasn't a smile of enjoyment. He's really starting to dig for himself there. Yeah, there you see Thomas Cravens, team director right there, picking a really good spot in the feed. As teams think about that, you know, where there's a feed zone, you don't just place yourself in that feed zone willy-nilly and be like, hey guys, I'm here. You know, typically you want to be in the front of the field or the front of that line or the back of that line. You want to make it very easy for your riders to find you and not be around a bunch of stuff to not be able to get their riders the resources they need. But now we see Kyle Perry with Fergus Arthur from Texas Roadhouse come to the front of this race. It's the first time we've talked about Kyle all weekend.
Yeah.
Good rider. He's had some good rides here before, but you know, I know he skipped Friday. He's had ultra bad luck Friday night, so he's got one race less legs than everybody on this field.
Mr. Kyle Perry actually a national championship on the track in the scratch race, so you know he certainly has the ability to pull out some very good rides as well. So we'll see how Texas Roadhouse handles the next few laps. This looks to be Spencer.
Yeah, and this is, you know, I think I said around 15 laps. A few laps ago that we start to speak and come to the race, and so we're very kind of close to that. But this is the point of the race at Crybaby Hill where typically kind of this awkward 15-20 man split happens, and almost the field just kind of goes in half. And there's guys that make it and there are guys that don't, and if you don't make it, it's ultra frustrating because you likely don't have help to get back up into that front group.
Denver seems to be putting on the pressure. We thought that Hyena would be one to watch here in today's contest. This is Sergio on the front right now. I mean, he's Perry Nice, you know, right? Like, I mean, yeah, the dude has some real Palmares to his name. This is a kind of a climber's race, a little bit more of a Belgian classic kind of race in a way, but do you think he's got the ability to really knock it out of the park in the next 10 laps kind of thing and blow this thing up?
For sure, he's got the ability, right? It's just that, you know, the world he comes from is that, you know, he could do this hour after 5 hours.
Yeah.
And so he's with a bunch of guys that can still do this first 90 minutes at the same thing. He's not that marginally ahead of guys for 90 minutes, right? The World Tour, those gaps start to open 3, 4, 5 hours into racing.
Right.
Is really the gap of domestic stuff. So a lot of domestic guys can go over to Europe and race the first 90 minutes. It's those longer races where, you know, just the depth of time in the Euro field start to excel. So, you know, Sergio's a great rider, no doubt about it, but for 90 minutes there's a large pool of riders that can still participate that. And if you're racing against 10 guys sharing workload, it's hard to beat 10 on 1, which is kind of what he would be playing against.
All right, so it looks like Fergus Arthur is going to come up and around Alec Cohen there. What was the play there by Alec by riding that little bit slower pace? Because right now we lost the Williams brothers. We've got Ty in there. We've got Tyler in here. What do you think Legion is thinking right now, allowing Fergus to go up, and now it looks like they're going to allow Ulysses Castillo to go up?
So a tactic, you know, Alex should be playing is that you want races to be difficult. And if you can't get a group of riders to collectively make a race just a really hard pace continuously, how else do you get to do that? You got to slow the pace down, encourage people to speed it up.
Yep.
You know, open up gaps and force guys to close them. So Alex can, you know, with the position he's in, get to the front of the climb, slow it down, and then entice somebody to speed it up.
Okay.
And so it's just, you know, can you, if again, a group of guys can't collectively make it hard, you have to artificially make it hard by slowing it down, speeding up, slowing it down, speeding up. So, you know, I would definitely kind of, same dynamic, I would go to the front, slow it down, and want guys to attack. Make it this big yo-yo race and get guys to work. Because if it's just a consistent space, guys can tuck in, get in the draft, and save their legs.
Yeah, I totally feel that. When races started to yo-yo, that's where I certainly struggled the most, and so I imagine there's plenty of guys out there today with the same struggles.
And struggled is more difficult than struggled, just so everybody knows.
Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Ulysses Castillo on the front, and Fergus Arthur are now on the front. Field preem, though. That's an interesting move there by Frankie.
I hate field preems. I absolutely hate field preems.
Me too.
You've done the work to get off the front. You should be getting the money. And it's just like you've done the work to get off the front and establish the gap. And then the stage is encouraging the back to chase you.
Yeah.
I was never a fan of that.
Neither was I, and I was in the field. Man, so who's chasing? It's going to be Alec. It's going to be DCC with Meyer, I believe. And, man, Primal Audi selling Audis today. Woo.
Yeah, I mean, they've got, I guess they came with a team that this was their course. But here we go, Spencer back in the action, really starting. I mean, he's been MIA until, 15 laps to go.
A little bit fence-to-fence action, though, at the moment.
Yeah, and it's, similar to the women's race. We're around 2 minutes laps kind of around this pace. So it's 14 laps, but it's 28 minutes, and that's still a chunk of time. You know, that's not close enough where one guy can just go ride, 28 minutes by himself.
But we're now going to see 2 Denver disruptors, one of them being Sergio Hanea.
Yeah. And this is what they want. Now he's got, for sure, a guy that with him is going to work, and now they can go, hey, Ulysses, you just need to make it till 7 to go.
Yeah.
Just sell out for 7 laps.
Yeah.
You don't have to make it all the way to the end. You just need to sell out and make this pace super hard, not all the way to the finish, but enough the gap goes out enough that then Sergio can go ride the last 4 laps by himself.
Movenza trying to chase there for Blazers, and from behind, Sam Boardman, also one of the riders trying to chase this group of 3. Sergio
and it's starting
Haneo.
to come apart in the back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be starting to be 3s and 4s. 3 up the road, 4 behind.
But look at that. Sergio Haneo is out of the saddle, really trying to go. He's going to get a little bit of a preem, I guess, from the field or something, because that group has been brought back, and now we're going to have 5 or 6 coming together.
See, 3, 4, 1, 3 peloton.
Yep. And his Legion, look at that. Alec from behind trying to encourage some pull-through, and nobody's cooperating, so we may actually have a successful little split there. Why is Alec asking people to pull through if Sam Boardman's up the road?
Because it's hard enough right now that if you get guys to encourage and those splits happen, it could be he could find himself with a group of 4 bridging up to his teammate Sam. Now they have 2 and 8, which is good odds. Yep. A rider we haven't talked about is Hassini. He's still floating around.
Okay.
We haven't mentioned him. He doesn't touch the wind. He's following wheels. He's a guy. When you have no teammates, night 1 and 2 can be really difficult if you're just fighting for yourself. Everything hell. But when you're by yourself on this course, it's a lot easier to float and find yourself in a better position as an individual rider. So he can just kind of float stuff and potentially find himself in one of these splits or one of these small groups that bridge up to make one of these larger groups. But here's it's 8, I believe, 7, 8.
7 or 8 now. It also includes a German national champion, Jos van Rensburg, who is at the back of that group.
That's not Van Rensburg. That's a DCC rider.
That's the South African national?
No, that's German.
Yeah, that's the German national champion. Oh, I'm sorry.
We have 3 Denver disruptors.
Jonas Schoenmeiser.
Yeah. So we have Noah, Ulysses, and Sergio Haneo in the front with Sam Boardman, Fergus Author, Spencer, and the German national champion. So Fergus, needs to not work.
Okay.
He needs to do minimal work. He's the lowest team on the totem pole. He's the lowest known rider. This is his opportunity to take this free ride. See, now Ulysses selling out. He's all in. Hey, I need you to go as hard as you can for as long as you can. We hope that's 4 or 5 laps. Blow this gallop out where it's no longer bridgeable. Okay. And then Noah's probably going to take on some workload, and now we're going to start do less work.
Yeah.
So, but Fergus needs to sit. The German guaranteed, he's like, oh, there's 3 of them? I'm not going to touch it. Not my responsibility. So these individual riders are going to start to not participate as much. Denver's going to have to be mindful of that, but this might be like Ulysses' last pull. But now Denver's got to find that tempo pace, make it not so hard, where they can encourage to get help from these other riders.
Noah now coming out in the pace setting. And Boardman is now sitting in 3rd wheel behind Haneo, and it looks like Castillo's going to jump onto the back of this.
Yeah, he saw the pace come off, and this is what you do. You never just give up. If you do a big turn like that, and you flick through and you come over and the pace comes off, you got to look over and be like, I can do it. And you just got to get yourself on that wheel. And who knows, he may ride a lap and he may completely, or he could just need 30 seconds of respite, you know, a minute of rest, and then be able to kind of do another hero pull. You know, you always got to look for just one more opportunity to help your teammates.
I'm seeing 3 Denver Disruptors that are fully committed to blowing this gap out. We saw now all 3 of them have taken big pulls at decisive moments on this lap to extend the advantage, and look at this. We now have a pretty big gap here with about 30 seconds. It looks like Alec Cohen on the front for Legion of Los Angeles, but look at that, Tyler Williams, boom, gone.
Last year's race winner.
Wow.
So now Legion is down to 2 riders in this race.
Yep, with Boardman in the move and Cohen chasing.
Yep. So this is going to be really frustrating. Respectfully, I understand that Sam may not want to work, but sitting second wheel and just kind of blocking the pace isn't helping his case of
not at all.
You know, being a friendly. He's got to go back, and he's got to help himself by going back 3, 4, 5 wheels and just sitting there. Let other guys get themselves tired.
Yep.
But this is like kind of 4.0 tactics here. Is you have Alex Cowan chasing from the back, even though he has a teammate, and what's that doing is closing that gap, and that's forcing Denver continue to ride an elevated pace. What Denver wants to do now is find a tempo. But if they ride tempo, the gap is going to close, which is they don't want, and that's what Alex is forcing them to do. He's kind of, you know, telling them they have to continue to ride hard, hoping for them to, you know, blow up and it comes back together. Or Sam's been able to sit, and when they do blow up, Sam's going to be able to launch because his teammate from behind is forcing those guys to continue to ride an elevated pace. So on paper, we see that, oh my God, why is Alex chasing his teammate? But it's a thoughtful thing. If I got to keep the pace up so Denver can't just find a tempo and start to do our recovery pace.
Well, would that not mean that DCC should also actually be chasing?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, for sure, but you can't. It's hard for Alex to go tell a DCC guy, hey, this is my strategy, this is my plan, this is why we're doing this.
Right.
Alex just acting on experience and knowledge in the moment to try to employ something to help his teammate.
Well, looking at what's happening on the course, it looked to me like we were fence to fence on Crybaby Hill from the field with DCC, with Meyer on the front not pulling through, and so now I think we've got a successful breakaway being established here. They are going to be out of sight, out of mind here. We're going to try to get a time clock on this break as they come up and over down by us here in the final acute angle corner. You got 3 Denver Disruptors into the mix. You have Jonas Schirmeiser from Germany, your German national champion. Look at this, they're allowing people to cross the street. The gap is so big between them.
And it's just, you know, the field has just exploded. There's nobody kind of take up this chase. And, you know, never say never, but, you know, this race is basically done, you know, for the rest of the field.
There's your field trying to chase a little bit. It looks like some ACC riders because Summerhill and the rest of that team has not actually chased, or I'm sorry, made the breakaway, and they are now chasing. So the American Cycling Group putting themselves to work here on the front. Miami Blazers are represented. Texas Roadhouse represented, Legion of Los Angeles, DCC, and Denver Disruptors. Miami Knights not represented. Neither are the Austin Aviators or Elbows or a number of other teams in this mix. Butcher Box also missing out with Dushan Kalaba missing out on this split.
Yeah, Butcher Box again, just not riding as a unit, not riding as a team, not communicating on what their team leader leads to execute.
So American Cycling Group on the front right now. This pace is not going to be significant enough to actually whittle away. I believe the breakaway is riding faster than the entire field right now. Look at this, Castillo just absolutely 100% committed. Fergus Arthur in second wheel right now, fully committed to the move. Spencer Movenza is also fully committed, grabbing that ice pack. He's going to tuck that into the top of the jerseys there to allow that cold water to go down his back.
Yeah, and again, it's, you know, a guy like Fergus, these individual riders, it's not up to them to, you know, fully contribute. Yeah, you kind of want to just go up and off to make sure that, you know, the Denver Disruptors don't get, you know, upset that guys aren't working, but you don't want to be taking longer pulls. You know, it's just up and off, get the rotation going through. Fergus just need to, you know, he's just got to be saving energy.
Look at Fergus, he's like frustrated that Boardman's not pulling through.
But so what Boardman has done is he's put himself behind Castillo, knowing that Castillo's at his limit, right? And he's taking that calculated risk that Castillo's not going to be a ride away by himself.
Okay.
You know, he's saying that's the one disruptor that I can count that's, you know, not going to make it to the finish by himself.
Yep. Wow, look at this.
Changes quickly.
Yeah.
Changes quickly.
Wow.
But Spencer can't play. Now Fergus, Spencer, the German rider, can't play too many games. They've got to make a decision that they don't want to go back to the field. Like they have teammates, but this is a much better situation for them.
Yeah, so now they have to ride hard again.
Yeah, you know, and just find a way to split this breakaway up and get rid of one or two guys and get back to some coherence, you know, guys working together.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised by this, I guess, and maybe that's just my level of understanding of the nuances here. But, you know, we have Castillo now riding off the front by himself, and the whole 5 of them all just sort of did a little bit of a sit-up, and they're going to get reabsorbed here pretty quick. That leaves Castillo to hang out to dry. Yeah,
not ideal for Denver. I mean, it's still like a large enough gap that the whole field may not come across, but, you know, if we get a camera angle, maybe somebody's launching from the field to get up to those guys, because the momentum has changed a little bit.
Okay. So this is
next. Now the Germans back on the front, you know, not liking the fact that the break has sat up a bit.
Yeah, so that's Schirmeiser from DCC on the front, trying to get themselves back into contention there. That gap's changing pretty quickly, so I think there's still plenty of opportunity for a lot of dynamics to shift here. With about 9 laps to go, that is Jonas Schirmeiser, your German national Criterium champion. On the front, Sam Boardman. Right behind him, Noah Granigan in 4th wheel with Sergio Jaeno.
Yeah, if I'm Sam, I'm finding Jaeno's wheel and not leaving it.
Yeah.
You know, just let everything else at this point, you play itself out. Don't get any cat and mouse games of, you know, front to back accelerations. Just find Sergio's wheel and just wait for that explosion. You know, it's pretty much bound to come. You know, at this point, that's kind of my pick out of this move, is Sergio to make a really big move with a couple laps to go.
So 15 seconds we're hearing is the gap from Frankie.
That's bridgeable.
That's
bridgeable from a really explosive, strong rider to carry momentum into the bottom of the hill and over the top. It's a big effort, but it's possible.
Definitely, and as we have a little bit of hesitation here from this move, we may actually start to see the field being able to visually make contact with this breakaway. But Jaeno on the front, that's putting a lot of pressure on the pedals from everybody else in this group. Again, we're looking at 7 away. Sergio Jaeno, Boardman, Schirmeiser. We have Granigan and Castillo in there, and then Fergus Arthur and Spencer Movenza also represented. Big thanks to our Helmerich and Payne drone shot for helping us out with that camera angle, just so we get an understanding of the field dynamic overall. Looks like our break is splitting. We got about 3 moving themselves away at the front, and the back 3 starting to come off the back. That's Castillo, Spencer, and Noah at the back. Perhaps a calculated, just sort of soft pedal through the feed zone.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this, as long as this breakaway is going on, I think we're always going to see one rider yo-yoing off the back, and that's going to be Castillo. You know, that's just where he's currently at with the workload that he's done, and so he's going to keep fighting until the field catches him. That's just who he is as a rider. That's his job as a rider in this situation, is just fight, fight, fight. You know, don't give up until your race is absolutely over. What I'm seeing out of the field, to me, is a bit of a surprise, is Iman Lucas is sitting 4th wheel behind Summerhill.
Wow.
You know, this is, he's coming, might be the depth of the Euro racing that he's had the last few years to make it this far into the race. It wouldn't shock me if he's the largest guy still in the field. But he's that Austin Aviators rider in the black helmet sitting behind his American cycling riders. Yeah,
that'll be interesting to see if he counters this, if there is in fact a catch, or if he tries to bridge it now that we are within bridgeable territory on a quick jump across. Jaeno on the front right now, Castillo 2nd wheel, Boardman in 3rd, Schirmeiser there in 4th with Spencer, and then rounding out with Noah Granigan. We seem to have lost Fergus Arthur.
Yeah, and, that's just one pull in the wrong spot to have a detonation. That's why I was saying a guy like that just has to sit. It's never his responsibility to make pace in a situation like this. And kind of going back to Iman Lucas is, at this point in the game, no explosive efforts. He's got one, and it's for the sprint.
Okay.
He can't afford to risk it on a bridge or big acceleration. His game is to conserve, be as light as possible on the pedals, and be there and use that all the energy he's got for a field sprint. Or for a group sprint. It's no longer a field. It's a small group at this point. And that's what he's got to use his energy and resources for.
Well, we're in single digits here. 7 laps to go. We're going to be looking at 6 to go here pretty soon as these guys come up and over the crest just past the feed zone. And Castillo leading for the Denver Disruptors down and around. Boardman seems to be on board with contributing to the pace setting here as these guys looking to set themselves up for a potential at the win, but with will be 6 laps to go coming up here pretty soon. It will be anything goes here because this gap could dwindle pretty quickly as we see the field coming by us here in the commentator booth, which means that they can now see the breakaway. And when they can see it, that's going to give them motivation in order to fully commit and make the catch. As we look back through this lens, we're seeing Frank Travieso being the rider from Miami Knights, who is the one who is going to be doing the chasing. And we're just seeing if anybody else is going to follow suit. Clever Martinez talking to Frank right now. We'll see what happens in the next few laps.
And I hate to put Frank on blast, but I do believe he's the oldest guy in the peloton. And I did get that information from his lovely wife, Ashley. So it's great to see Frank. I mean, he's been a staple of this peloton for, well past, 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's great to see him continue to fight, put the pace on at the front of these races. But we can start to see, these gaps just start to open up at the front, even though it may not look super hard. The pace is super high. It's just the fatigue is super high.
Yep.
And that's causing the gaps.
We're seeing that with Castillo. He's now dropped out of the break. He is now enjoying Crybaby Hills spectatorship here at the front. So your break now you've lost Fergus Arthur, you've lost Castillo. And so now we are looking at Heineo, Boardman, Schurmeiser, Spencer, Movenza, and Noah Granigan.
Yeah, and so I think, what we could have seen is it's either they were potentially riding for Sergio before, and then because the gap came down, they've switched over to riding for Noah.
Okay.
And that's why it was so key to have that third rider in Ulysses be there to be the workhorse, the sole guy that's going to press the pace. And if it was going to continue to go out and the gap be large, I think we would have saw Noah potentially start to work a little bit and a big attack from Sergio. But now that the gap has come down, they're switching over to Noah, who's the faster out of the two Denver guys. So now Sergio's likely going to do a majority of the work, and Noah's going to sit on. I think Noah is the faster rider out of ever here. Now we see Fergus from Roadhouse coming back into here. Maybe he had a mechanical we missed.
I saw
we
him
didn't
come
get
out
notified.
of the pit. Yeah, he came out of the pit, and it was a strange release, honestly.
Very early.
So is Fergus Arthur back into the breakaway after getting a wheel.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're back up again. Now that's interesting. So what happens when you skip a few laps from the breakaway?
Oof, on a course like this, it's not good. Okay. You've been riding at such a high pace. Your body just has this built-up tension. And if you keep riding, that tension just exists, and your body can just deal with it. As soon as you stop pedaling and stop, your body wants to just protect itself and just shut down. Your heart rate tanks, your muscles really start to tighten up. So if you take too long to get going again, it's really, really difficult to get it back open, and it's very uncomfortable. It really just hurts yourself. So in a situation like this, it is the worst case scenario to have to go in for a pit, especially on a course like this. It's a 2.5 minute lap that you just kind of sit there, plus the time that it potentially took to get there. So
yeah,
not ideal.
So back in the field, should riders like Johnny Clark for Miami Knights actually be on the front and doing some chasing right now?
If he's there.
Yeah, I saw him in the middle.
Yeah, so I mean, he's he should be working. In my opinion, right, he's not as fast as Clever Martinez is.
Right.
He should definitely be sharing some of the workload. We see him kind of on the inside there, moving up. Found himself out of position or what have you. But now it looks like he's getting up there to start putting some pace on.
Okay. Cool, so we're going to see Miami Knights start to organize up the front a little bit. Travieso now doing 2 laps of work on the front to try to whittle down the advantage that this breakaway has. Sergio Jaeno is the rider on the front right now, and he is putting in with 4 laps to go now. There's Johnny, Mr. Johnny Clark, right on cue. I was wondering where he was, and he is now joining the party at the front, and DCC now organizing right on the hip.
Yeah, and it looks like the Miami Knights is riding for Clever. I don't see, we heard that Gomez is out.
Yeah.
I don't see Alfredo Rodriguez in there, who would be their other guys they're riding for. So it looks like they're going to be riding for Clever, and that's why we're seeing Miami starting to put pace on.
DCC has Andreas Meyer, Dario Raps, Florian Weber, and Julian Kern in the race, we believe. I think Moritz Augustine may not be there, but that's unconfirmed. But they do have Jonas Schirmeiser, number 50, in the breakaway. That's your German national champion that you can see. A lot more organization as you see Mr. Kyle Perry on the front for the Texas Roadhouse crew. What do you think they're thinking?
They're just being present. Again, they can just kind of get to the front there and, if there's a chance to kind of slow down the pace or just be present to make other teams, not work. Just take up road space in the front, make it no room for other teams to get up there and start to chase. Just being interruptive but not rude about it.
Looking at that drone shot, courtesy of Helmerick and Payne, I didn't actually see the field in the same shot. So I still think that the gap is going to be significant enough that these guys could start to potentially, if they can make it to 2 to go, they could start to maybe play some games?
I don't know, because if they play for games, and then that's the time in which teammates from the back of the field are going to start making their kamikaze, their full last effort to bring it back. But now Ty Magner is back there, and so they have Alex Cowan right there on the left of our screen, but we have Tyler Williams and Ty Magner back towards the front of the field.
Miami Knights also has Evan Boschbacher in there, number 87. He's patrolling the back of the group, so maybe they could put him on the front as well to help out Frank and Johnny.
Where's Butcherbox? Where's 1, 2? Is there only 1 guy left, 2 guys left? At some point, they need to make some sort of one last big effort to make a splash. If not, they're going to end up 6th, 7th at best. Yeah. Which is not what they're capable of. The team is just capable of more, and for some reason, they're just not putting the puzzle together to show us the picture.
So Dusan Kalaba in the mix here still. We believe he would be the rider that's really trying to get himself some Omnium points to move himself up in the overall for the St. Francis Tulsa Tough Omnium that is at play here tonight.
Here we see Stefan Roth from Elbows, the man that earned the T-shirt, come and make a last effort. Yes. This could be, watching this, the guys in the front of the bike race are frustrated. Okay. Why is this guy at 3 to go making such an impactful move?
Right.
This for virtually nothing?
In his 17th edition of the St. Francis Tulsa Tough.
Where it's just like this, that effort can just spur the catalyst of leapfrog for the next 2 laps to end the breakaway.
Is there not an onus on the field, though, to keep the pace high enough that those little kind of surprise attacks can't even occur, though?
Yeah, but that's Miami Knights, that's Butcher Blocks. If those teams fade, as we just saw before that attack, we had Legion starting to ride a tempo with Texas Roadhouse next to them, setting a tempo to just kind of stay out of trouble, but ever present, if anything were to happen.
Yeah.
So those teams that the onus was on to stop those attacks, had faded away. And it allowed for a guy like Stefan to just launch this kind of Hail Mary attack.
Well, he certainly strung out the field a bit, and that's going to erode the advantage of the breakaway, and that is bad news for Denver Disruptors. They have put a lot of eggs into this collective basket here with Jaeno, Granigan, and Castillo in the mix. Castillo no longer part of this, so Castillo out of the race, so only Sergio Jaeno and Noah Granigan remaining for Denver Disruptors.
And I don't know, has Sergio come off the front? I'm sorry, it's my job to pay attention, but we've had some other shots going on, and it seems like Sergio has just been the only guy doing the work, putting pace. Wow. And now we're getting from the stage in our background, 15-second gap, and that's not impossible for, say a guy, if Dusan has 2 guys, and each of those 2 guys just do a maximum effort, One guy could take 5 seconds, the next guy could take 5 seconds, and Duchamp could potentially close the last 5.
This is the alarm bell moment, though, for all the teams that think they missed out, namely American Cycling Group, and they're trying to really push themselves. Big gear, my goodness. So that, I guess, was his.
But now DCC's there to just chill.
Yeah.
You know, kind of kick that pace back down. You know, and at the pace we see here versus the pace we see, it's going to grow out from 15 to 17 seconds, 18 seconds.
Yeah, well, a lap and a half to go right now. These are your leaders. Sergio Jaeno is been leading for about 3 laps, which means Noah Granigan is their protected rider. Noah has won Tour of Somerville in 2017 from a reduced breakaway just like this. Noah attacked that breakaway with half a lap to go. Very different course, mind you, but you know, Noah is very strong potential.
Yeah, and now we see Austin Aviators finally come to the front of the bike race. But up front of the breakaway from Sergio Jaeno, he's got to pull off sooner than later. Okay. Right. He also doesn't want to give those other guys in the break too much of a runway, you know, of a lead out. Right. He's also, as much as he's helping Noah, he's helping the other guys. If he swings and Sam Boardman hits the front, it becomes chaotic.
Boardman has not touched the wind very much, and we are now at 1 lap to go. Boardman has not touched the wind very much at all, but here your wild card becomes Fergus Arthur. Arthur has won a Speed Week race in just a few weeks ago down in the South Carolina area, and Spencer Mavenza there from Blazers also has a chance. Well, there's a lot of potential here. I think you have at least 4 guys who could win this race right now.
Yeah, I mean, my pick is Noah. Okay. I could easily be surprised, you know. Spencer winning won't surprise me. I think he's a podium guy for sure. Here's Fergus putting in his move. Yep. Prematurely, and, you know, not that explosive. You know, but this is the card he has to play. Boardman has, in my opinion, done the wrong thing by immediately reacting to that. Yep. He's just putting himself in the front of the lead out. Fergus blows up. You know, Boardman's on the wheel. Now he's in charge of the lead out. It's not what he wanted. You know, Noah's placed himself really well. Spencer's picked his horse to race.
We're finally down to the half lap here, and Mr. Jaeno has done his job. He has exited from the back door. We are now looking at Noah Granigan is trying to figure it out. Heads on the swivel, everybody looking at everybody. And it is Arthur on the front right now for Texas Roadhouse. Here comes Sam Boardman onto the front, trying to take some cues. He's checking around. He's swinging wide, trying to get out of the way, maybe trying to figure out a gap. There's the acceleration from Boardman at the front as he checks. He's going to now come down into view as he drops downhill into this very tight technical turn. These guys are going to be going full gas. Boardman on the front right now. He wants this gap. We talked earlier in the broadcast about how quickly he can take it. Noah Granigan, though, is going to come around. Noah is now in the draft. Noah Granigan, can he get there? But is Boardman giving himself so many meters that he cannot be passed? Sam Boardman from Montana comes to the line. Here comes your German national champion on the outside. It's Sam Boardman. Takes the race here today. We're St. Francis, Tulsa Tough, Crybaby Hill.
Boardman Dito with the mustache. I mean, Sam never gets to win. Yeah. Right? On that program with Leach, and look, he's crying. He's bawling.
The tears are coming.
Goodness,
oh
look at
my
that.
God.
This team is going to have absolute meltdown. The hearts are just going nuts. His lady at home, Jess Sarah, is probably losing it right now watching this stream. Look at this is amazing.
God, that's amazing.
This is. We saw Danny Summerhill yesterday being emotional, winning bike races. Yeah. It's the same thing for Sam.
Clever Martinez giving the hug here. That's amazing.
The whole peloton knows what this means. Absolutely knows what this means for Sam to win this race. Absolutely incredible.
Tyler Williams with the hug. We got a replay coming up right now just to see what's going on. But look at this family hug here. Here we go. Out of the final turn. We're looking for Boardman at the front. He's out of the saddle. He used his tactical knowledge to gain as many meters as possible out of that final turn, using his prowess to come on the pedals, and Boardman takes the win just ahead of Noah Granigan and Jonas Schirmeiser.
Absolutely amazing. Sam, just rode that race perfectly. I mean, you could see, I wasn't watching the screen here. I was live watching Sam go through that corner. And at the end of the day, he just took a better line with better momentum. And he just got those 2 bike lengths like we were seeing earlier in the race. Those riders that have done thousands of laps here can just easily put those 2 bike lengths in. And he just kept them. He just kept them that Noah just couldn't make up. Noah took not an ideal line, wasn't able to get on his pedals as soon as Sam was, and that's what we saw there. Incredible ride for Sam.
Incredible ride. Incredible.
Very happy for him. Look at Justin, absolutely going nuts. Super happy.
We love to see this sort of camaraderie. I mean, a celebration by these guys. They are just absolutely ecstatic for their man. It is not about which one of them wins, just as long as one of them does win.
That was absolutely amazing, right? And this goes back to that. Why is Alex Cowan chasing, right? He's forcing disruptors to to keep the pace up, and Sam gets to rest. This, like, all those little things play into how can we make it so Sam doesn't have to touch the front.
We're going to take a look at the last lap here just to see what the tactics came out to be. We saw Haino taking the final pull on the front, and it was Fergus Arthur with a last-ditch effort to try to get himself a little bit of a cracking from the bunch, but it was not to be. But it was Boardman's attentiveness that put him into that draft, so he did not have to pedal. That's right. His patience was exquisite as he just allowed Arthur to continue to do all this pace setting. This is every meter that Boardman did not have to break the wind.
And this is going into the second to last corner.
That's right. As soon as
up this hill,
Arthur, he was swung off, and Boardman then took the race into his own hands. As he comes up and around, he makes this right-hand turn. He's now into the wind, and he checks the shoulder. He's now going uphill.
And this is a seated acceleration.
Yeah.
It's not in frame, but that's seated acceleration on the right side. He gets out of the saddle for a pop, and that was about 300, 250 to go.
And then now he uses his tactical advantage through this turn to be able to extend meters without taking pedal strokes, and then he jumps before anybody else is even able to. That gives him the meter advantage to then come to the line and take the race by 2 bike lengths.
Yeah, I mean, it's just knowing the course that you can sprint. You have this long downhill to take 2-3 breaths, take a really good line, and then just one massive explosion for 150 meters. I mean, it's just Sam knowing this course, having guys like Justin and Corey, Ty, in his ear before the race saying, Justin's saying, guys, if I'm there, this is what I want you to do. I want you to jump here. I'm going to jump here. All this. And Sam has just absorbed that information year after year to know that if I'm sprinting, this is what I need to do. These are the check marks on the road that I need to hit, and he did that perfectly. And it was just that subtle tact of swinging over, right, giving the visual cue to know that, like, oh, he's not going to lead it out. But Sam moved over, and while he's moving over, seated acceleration. Just when a guy doesn't come out of the saddle, it doesn't set off the alarm bells.
Yeah.
And it gave him that little bit of advantage. And then he did an out of the saddle acceleration to maintain that gap, swung left, and was able to take his right line. Noah kind of got caught out with a guy in between him, had to come inside and wasn't able to get his ideal line coming into this bottom corner to get set up, take his perfect line, and carry as much momentum.
Every meter matters when you're that deep in the bike race and you have riders of this caliber fighting each other. They all have very capable, explosive sprint potential, but it really does matter when you are going to be vying for the win here in this level of bike race. Again, this is the 3rd day of racing here at the St. Francis Tulsa Tough. This is officially known as the McElroy River Parks Criterium, but this is Cry Baby Hill. What an exciting day of racing, Daniel. My goodness, we started off with some great women's racing where we saw some amazing tactical displays by our Legion women as well, where we got to see them, saw the Schneider sisters really work the field over with that Saturn sit-up.
Yep.
And that was great to see that tactical awareness being present.
Yeah, I mean, just very heads-up riding. These are riders in a collective team that probably have hundreds of years of experience, right, as a collective of 8, 10, 12 riders. And so we're just seeing that on these last couple races, and just nuance. It's the subtleties. It's not the massive tells. It was never really the rope-a-dope, right? It's just very high IQ, crafty racing.
Yeah, we're going to try to take a look at the women's race recap here real quick for those of you that missed it earlier in the broadcast. This was a great race, a lot of tactical moments here. We had a lot of early aggressive separations in the event. Denver Disruptors were very active, as was DNA Pro Cycling, but it was the attentiveness of Legion throughout the contest that really separated them.
And there's just Kendall, yapping a little bit, trying to do some mind games with Daphne from DNA.
Yeah, Daphne and Kendall had a little bit of elbow rubbing, but when it came down to it, it was Legion who was sweeping up Preems. They were being very aggressive at the front. Denver Disruptors trying to throw some attacks down across the road, but Kendall always very attentive and keeping everything in check. Taylor Cook-White, another animator for Miami Knights. But when it came down to it, it was Skylar Schneider at the front of the race at the end of the event, and it was her sister's second wheel there, Samantha Schneider, who intentionally did the Saturn sit-up to gap the wheel. That gave Skylar the win, and it also gave Sam the overall for St. Francis Tulsa Tough. Amazing racing there by our women's field. We'll see those podiums coming up here momentarily for our professional women. We're now looking at your winner for the men, Sam Boardman. Oh man, he's let the hair down.
Yeah, he's letting the hair down, and he's going to let it down all night. Hopefully we get to see, maybe do a little celebration with these guys at the Sound Pony.
We'll get an interview here with Frankie Andreu at the finish line.
What it was like being in that winning move, that winning breakaway.
Hard. It's definitely a lot of calculative thinking. You're listening to the splits as you come through, and you're kind of weighing whether it's going out or coming back in. And as soon as we got to within, I think, 12 to go, we knew that the gap was holding at around like 20 to 30 seconds, and that was even with us kind of like soft pedal tootling through the line. So at that point, you just have to be very judicious with your efforts. And there were 3 Denver Disruptors in the pack, and I knew that it would be very easy for one of them to just go. And as much as I would have liked to stay sheltered within the pack a little further back, I was, I made the decision that it would probably be best to expend the effort to kind of just sit second wheel, even though that may have not been the best draft. That meant that I would be able to react to any move coming up, like either right or left side, and I would still be able to sit on a disruptor and force them to push the move, because I know that I had teammates in the back who were able to chill because I was in the break. So
just a small example of how analytical everything that goes on out there. You are a tireless worker. You sacrifice yourself so much for your team, time in and time out. You won the Joe Martin time trial, but other than that, you have not won a Criterium in a long time. Your team has won a ton. What does it mean to you to be able to win here on Crybaby Hill?
Every domestique has their day. And I want to make it clear that's not to say that I go out into every race expecting to have an opportunity. I take pride in putting myself on the line for my teammates. I love what this team does in terms of putting out, representation of black success and black ownership to the masses, and seeing what that kind of entrepreneurship and ownership can be put towards in a race setting. And I'm happy to be a part of that mission. And in my mind, like, a win is a bonus, and I'm just happy to be out here racing my bike.
A win is a bonus, but Crybaby Hill is a double bonus. Sam Boardman, your 2023 winner. Riders, we are 2 minutes from your podium. 2 minutes from the podium. Pro women to our podium, pro men to the podium, along with our Omnium.
Well, we had a great interview there with Sam Boardman of Legion of Los Angeles. We're going to have our podiums coming up here momentarily, so don't go anywhere, as we're going to celebrate the successes of all of our riders who have been here racing with us throughout the past weekend. We had started Friday night off with Blue Dome. We moved to the Arch District last night, wrapping out the St. Francis Tulsa Tough with Crybaby Hill. It's an event that you have a lot of history with, Daniel. What's it mean to end up on the top of the podium for some of these riders?
I mean, it's everything. I mean, for Sam, this is a career highlight, right? This one is always going to stand out to him. He's been coming here for a really, really long time. He's seen others guys win of it. He's been a part of the wins, and now he is a winner. That's the one that just will stand out for the test of time. For him, it just puts him on the map, right, as an all-time bike racer in North America. Even though he's been a domestique, his whole career, he's got this one win on his thing. It's just like any guy in Europe, domestique, and then just showing up and taking their moment when it's presented to them to get success. And I mean, I can't reiterate enough how much racecraft he had in that moment, how much composure he continued to have. It's very easy for a guy like that who doesn't get to experience those final moments of a bike race and decision making to put it all together. So for a guy like that to keep it together, make really good decisions, and in the post-race interview, we heard him say, hey, I'm going to make some decisions, and this is what's going to work out best for me. But he won it in that seated acceleration at the top of the hill.
Here we have our women's podium. We have Olivia Cummins in third place today. She's going to end up with a third overall, I believe, here for today for our race. And then we have Samantha Schneider second today here. This is our stage results. Samantha Schneider finishing second, and then Skylar Schneider taking the win here today with our McElroy River Parks Criterium, better known as Crybaby Hill, for our women's Pro 1-2 race. Skylar Schneider, Samantha Schneider, and Olivia Cummins. Great to see Cummins on this podium. Another up-and-coming rider racing for DNA Pro Cycling. Skylar going to put on the jersey of the winner's jersey there, and she's going to take home another one. She now has surpassed the great Daniel Holloway for the number of wins here at St. Francis Tulsa Tough. There we go. So the Schneider sisters celebrating having found victory. We're going to see them for their Omnium coming up here in just a few moments as well. So we're going to do the champagne pop, shake it up, and then pop the cork. You can do it. There you go.
I mean, I think it's totally great, right? Records have been to be broken. As much as we, always want to hold on to those things, it's great that, I mean, the race still exists for those records, to be broken, those opportunities, and now Skylar wants to see Olivia break those. Like, as much as she doesn't, she does, right? And if Olivia sticks around, continues to do it, and that record, Olivia goes on and breaks that record, it's going to be like, that's awesome for everybody for it to just get pushed and pushed and pushed.
We're going to do our women's Omnium podium coming up next. We will see Samantha Schneider having taken the overall here today. She solidified that, so she came into the contest tied on points with Olivia Cummins, but with her finishing one place ahead of Cummins in the final, that creates the points gap, and so Schneider will go home to Wisconsin with a fresh St. Francis Tulsa Tough title. Great ride there by Cummins to secure second overall. And look at this, Catherine Sarkisov in third place. This is really cool for me to see, for all of us to see, really, that we have two riders under 20 who are in the top three for the St. Francis Tulsa Tough in a very strong field. These two young women are showing the next gen of U.S. crit racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great to see, such two young riders on the podium to put it together. But Sam being able to win this Omnium, right? It's 3 days. You have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. You have to get each race exactly right to maximize your points to end up on the top step after 3 days. You can't have a bad day. You can't have a bad moment. You have to have a good team around you for it to all happen. It just doesn't, kind of fall off the tree. You got to really make it happen for yourself. Yeah,
last night there actually were riding for Sam, but she, the audible on the line meant that Kendall ended up taking the win and Samantha coming across for second. That gave her tie on points with Cummins. But today finishing second with her sister intentionally taking the win thanks to the old Saturn sit-up. They got the best of both worlds. It's sort of a cake and eat it too, where Skylar gets the race win, Samantha gets the overall win, and they get to go home real happy to go make some more bread at the bread makers.
Yeah.
Well, that's a watch.
Well, Tulsa's always had really great Omnium, just like diverse Omnium. I've got a leather vest from one year. I've got a hand painting of the Canes Ballroom up there. So I really appreciate it, and it's very cool that it's, the crew here at St. Francis Tulsa's Tough always comes with a very unique, very cool prize that you keep forever. There's some races where you get something that's, something you may not want in 20 years or 10 years. Or when you move houses, you're like, that can stay here. But everything I have from this event is still with me. It's still proudly displayed, and they're great story starters.
That's great. I love it. I can't wait to see you in your leather vest.
2024.
There we go. We're going to have our men's podium coming up next. I see Sam still talking to his friends there on the start-finish line, but hopefully we'll get them all over there for the podium. And we're going to start off with the race podium. There goes Sam running himself over there. It would be a great race. It was a great race today, as we saw our breakaway successfully getting themselves to the line. A master tactician play there in the final half lap there by Sam Boardman to get the win. I don't actually know the official final results for second and third.
I believe it looks like Noah and the German rider.
Yeah, Schermeiser. There he comes. All right, so Jonas Schermeiser in second, apparently. Our German national champion racing for DCC while he is here in America. And Sam Boardman going on up to the top step. Noah Granigan in third today. So Noah unable to join us on the podium here. Oh, here he is.
There he is.
Oh. Noah said I was second. Let's have an arm wrestling match. We'll do a little rock, paper, scissors, gentlemen, to see what we get. Oh, there we go. We're all sorted out. Okay. No harm, no foul. There we go. Sam Boardman in taking your win. Noah Granigan in second, and Jonas Schermeiser in third.
Yeah, great result. I mean, very exciting race. You know, just ever-changing. There's a couple moments where, like, this is the move, this is going to stick, everybody's represented, and a real big reset. And we saw from that kind of first one we thought was going to go, there was maybe 5 or 6 moves that had to get to our final move there at the end.
So we're going to have our overall here. Sam going to collect a blue winner's jersey for the day. He'll hang that on his wall proudly. Or maybe he'll make a donation to Sound Pony in the evening festivities. There you have it. As one should. If you've ever been to Sound Pony here in Tulsa, it's just absolutely filled with all sorts of cycling memorabilia from St. Francis Tulsa Tough. Sam Boardman, your winner. Noah Granigan in second, and Jonas Schermeiser in third. There's going to be a pro champagne pop here. Shake it up. Give it a good rip. Boom.
Like he's been there before.
There we go. Nice work, gentlemen. We're going to do our overall Omnium. Noah getting some refreshments there. Passing it around. Our overall Omnium will be coming up next to recognize the achievements of everybody here. Look at that cowboy hat on the finish line. My goodness.
Yeehaw, cowboy.
Yeah. I think he won that at a bike race sometime. Do you think he does training rides with the cowboy hat?
I hope not. You're supposed to wear your helmet.
That's true. Maybe it actually has MIPS. Maybe it has a MIPS locking system though.
MIPS cowboy hat.
Yeah.
That's patented. If that doesn't exist, we have it documented here. We'll take our royalty. We're not greedy, but you know, just fair is fair.
Fair is fair. 40%. We'll take it. We're going to have our overall podiums coming up here next. Here we are, Noah Granigan, right back on the steps here for third place overall.
Good for him. I mean, he touched down pretty good night one. That's always incredibly difficult to overcome and deal with in especially multi-day race series, especially as hard as this. So for him to come back, keep it together, and get enough points to get himself up to third is really impressive.
Dushan Kalaba from Butcher Box coming up and getting second overall. And then your overall winner, holding on to it, is Mr. Danny Summerhill. Yeah,
it's good. I mean, we didn't talk about him much. You know, we had to check in. He was kind of being a ghost there in the field for us, but we found him, saw that he was doing okay, and we could clearly see a little bit later that he had some guys around him to keep the pace up, keep him protected. You know, at that point, it could just get chaotic in the field. Guys racing, wanting that 7th place. You know, you can get desperate when the move goes up the road, and the only result left is 7th. Things can still get sketchy.
We have our watch presentation here. Danny Summerhill making the all the pieces of the puzzle starting to come together. The race win last night in the Tulsa Arts District. Oh boy, don't drop it, buddy. Oh my goodness. And Danny holding on to the overall. He will take that pink jersey home with him. and he might finish this off. We're going to take a look at the Anon Fondo here. That's a great opportunity. You know, Malcolm McCollum does such a great job making this event a true cycling festival here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Every day has some aspect of a type of Fondo or group ride. And today we had the Anon Fondo. That was a great opportunity for everybody to get out and enjoy the roads here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're going to take a look at that here coming up next. Fondo. What a beautiful set of roads that these riders get to go on here in the Aon Fondo. That was the Aon Fondo. Big thanks to Aon for making today's Fondo possible. Such beautiful roads out here in Tulsa, Oklahoma for everybody to get to enjoy. Well, those will be the conclusion of 3 days of racing at the St. Francis Tulsa Tough. We started off with Blue Dome on Friday, the Arts District last night for Saturday night, and today wrapping out with the iconic Cry Baby Hill. Thank you so much for joining us here on our broadcast. It's been a true honor and pleasure to be here with Daniel Holloway, a multiple-time winner of these events, a true legend here in Tulsa if you ever walk around with him in the streets. We're going to head on over to the after party to celebrate all the successes and victories that occurred here. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Gabe Lloyd, and this is Daniel Holloway. We'll see you next year for the next St. Francis Tulsa Tough.